people, and welcome back to the Luxe Lounge Podcast. If this is your very first time joining us, my name is Key, and I am so grateful you're here. This podcast is where we have real conversations about life, healing, growth, relationships, purpose, and becoming the person we're meant to be. No filters, no pretending, just honest conversations. But before we jump into today's episode, I have to say thank you. Thank you to everyone who listened to episode one. Thank you to everyone who shared it, commented, sent me messages, and filled in the sentence. Listen, it was, I'm working on accepting. I've read so many responses. Some of you said you were working on accepting that healing takes time. Some of you were working on accepting that certain relationships had ended. Others shared that you were learning to accept themselves for the first time in years. Those messages reminded me exactly why I started this podcast. Not because I have all the answers, but because sometimes all we need is one honest conversation to remind us that we're not alone. And that brings us to today's episode. Today's conversation is one that almost stopped this podcast from ever happening. The title, Stop Waiting for the Perfect Time. So, can I ask you something? What have you been waiting to start? Like, really think about it. Like, have you been waiting to write a book, start the business, go back to school, leave the unhealthy relationship, lose the weight, apply for that promotion, start the podcast? Maybe you've been telling yourself, I'll do it when I have more money. I'll do it after the holidays. I'll do it when the kids get older. I'll do it next month. I'll do it when I'm more confident. Sound familiar? Here's what I've learned. Sometimes later quietly turns into never. And that's one of the hardest truths I've had to accept because waiting feels productive. It feels responsible. It feels safe. But many times, waiting is just fear wearing a nicer outfit. Think about it. Fear doesn't always say, don't do it. Sometimes fear whispers, just a little longer. And before you know it, months have passed, years have passed, dreams have stayed on the shelf, not because you weren't capable, but because you kept convincing yourself that one day you'll finally feel ready. I want to tell you something that completely changed my life. You don't become confident, then take the leap. You become confident because you took the leap. Confident isn't the starting line, it's the reward for showing up constantly. I know that because I lived it. There was a time in my life when I couldn't imagine sitting behind this microphone. I questioned myself. I overthought everything. I worried about what would people say. I wondered if anyone would even listen. Then one day I asked myself a simple question. What if someone is waiting for a message that only I can deliver? That question changed everything because this podcast isn't really about me. It's about us. It's about creating a space where people feel seen, heard, encouraged, and challenged to grow. You want to know what's funny? Well, people often look at someone who's accomplished something and assume that they're fearless. But that's true, very rarely true. Most successful people were scared. They simply decided that staying the same was scarier than trying. That's where I found myself. I got tired of watching life pass me by while I waited for permission. Permission to dream, permission to start, permission to fail, permission to succeed. Eventually, I realized the only permission I needed was my own. So today I want to ask you something. What dream have you placed on pause because you're waiting for the perfect time? And more importantly, what if the perfect time never comes? Because here's my belief. The perfect time isn't found, it's created. It's created the moment you decide, I'm starting anyway. So, when we come back, I'm going to share a few moments from my own journey where waiting almost cost me opportunities I'll forever be grateful I didn't miss, and why taking imperfect action changed the course of life. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Before the break, I asked you a question. What have you been waiting to start? Not what you want to start. What have you been waiting to start? Because here's the difference. I've realized something about waiting. Waiting feels safe. It protects us from disappointment because as long as we never start, we never have to fail. But here's the problem, we also never have the chance to succeed. For years, I kept telling myself, one day I'll write the book. One day I'll go back to school. One day I'll lose the weight. One day I'll start another business. One day I'll launch the podcast. Then one day I realized one day isn't a day on the calendar. It's an excuse we use when fear is making the decision. And I don't say that to judge anyone. I say it because I lived it. There was a time when I didn't recognize the woman looking back at me in the mirror. I wasn't just carrying extra weight, I was carrying disappointment, self doubt, fear, excuses. I convinced myself I had time. I'll start Monday. I'll start next month. I'll start after the holidays. Come on, y'all. Does that sound familiar? Then Monday became next month, then next month became next year, and nothing changed because I wasn't changing. The biggest transformation in my life didn't begin when I lost weight. It began the day I made one decision: no more waiting. That decision didn't magically change my life overnight. I still had hard days. I still wanted to quit. I still questioned myself, but every day I chose to keep showing up. One walk became two, one healthy meal became another, 1 pound became 10, then 10 became 50, and 50 became 100. People see the transformation now. They celebrate the results, but they don't always see the thousands of tiny decisions that made those results possible. Success is very rarely one big moment. It's hundreds of small moments when you choose not to quit. The same thing happened when I decided to go back to school. Can I be honest? I wondered if I was too old, if I can balance work, family, homework, and everything else. I wondered if I was capable. But then I asked myself something that changed my perspective. If I don't start now, where would I be 4 years from today? 4 years were going to pass whether I enrolled or not. The only difference was who I would become by the end of them. And today, I'm proud that I didn't fear that I made that decision for me. The same thing happened when writing my cookbook, starting my businesses, becoming a certified personal trainer, launching this podcast. None of those moments happened because I suddenly woke up fearless. They happened because I finally accepted that courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is choosing to move while fear is still sitting beside you. Maybe you're listening today and you're thinking, Key, you don't understand my situation. Honey, maybe I don't know every detail of your story, but I do know what it feels like to wonder if you're enough. I know what it feels like to question yourself. I know what it feels like to think you've missed your chance. I also know what it feels like to prove those thoughts wrong. The life you're dreaming about won't be built in one day, but it can obviously begin today. Not because today is perfect, but because you've decided to stop waiting. There's something I want you to remember. The people you admire started before they felt ready. The businesses you support started with one customer. The authors you read started with one blank page. The podcast you love started with one microphone. Every success story begins with someone deciding, I'm starting anyway. And maybe that's your decision today. So, when we come back, I want to give you a challenge. I love those that can change the direction of the next 30 days of your life. Because I don't want today's episode to simply inspire you, I want it to move you into action. We'll be right back. Welcome back. As we wrap up today's conversation, I want to leave you with one thought. Your future isn't waiting for perfection, it's waiting for a decision. Think about it. So many of us spend years preparing for a life we're afraid to begin. We read another book, we take another class, we make another vision board. We tell ourselves we need just a little more money, a little more confidence, a little more experience. Preparation is valuable, but eventually, preparation has to become action. Otherwise, we're just standing still. I've learned that the biggest difference between people who chase their dreams and people who only talk about them isn't talent. It isn't money. It isn't connections. It's one decision, the decision to begin. So today, I want to challenge you. Not next week, not next month, not on Monday, but today. I call this the No More Waiting Challenge. All right, y'all. So for the next 30 days, I want you to commit to taking one step every single day towards something you've been putting off. Not 10 steps, not a giant leap, just one. If you've been talking about starting a business, buy that domain. If you've been saying you want to lose weight, take a 15-minute walk. If you've been wanting to write a book, write one page. If you've been thinking about going back to school, request the information. If you've been wanting to repair a relationship, make that phone call. One step every day. Because here's what people often miss. Biggest transformations don't happen because of one massive moment. They happen because ordinary people make ordinary decisions constantly. Consistency changes everything. I didn't lose over 100 pounds in one day. I didn't graduate college in one semester, and I surely didn't build businesses overnight. I definitely didn't wake up morning with podcasts. Each one of those dreams started with one small decision, then another, then another, until one day people call it success. What they didn't see was the consistency. So here's my question for you. 1 year from today, what do you want to be? Close your eyes for a second and picture that person. How do they carry themselves? What are they doing differently? How do they speak? How do they take care of themselves? Now ask yourself this. What decision does that version of me make today? Because becoming isn't something that happens overnight. It's something we practice daily. And I truly believe you're closer than you think. So before we leave, I want you to grab a notebook, open the notes app on your phone, write today's date, then write this one sentence. Today, I stopped waiting for, and finish it. Maybe it's today I stopped waiting to believe in myself. Today I stopped waiting to chase my dream, or today I stopped waiting for permission. Whatever it is, own it. This is your starting line. This is your declaration. And if today's conversation encouraged you, I want you to do one more thing. Share this episode with one person, just one. Someone who's been stuck, someone who's been doubting themselves, someone who's been waiting for the sign or any sign. Maybe this episode is their sign. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you enjoy your podcast, don't forget to follow the show and leave a review. Every follow, every review, and every share helps this community grow and helps these conversations reach people who really need to hear them. Now, before I go, I want to leave you with this week's affirmation. Repeat it with me. I don't need perfection or perfect conditions to begin. I don't need permission to pursue my purpose. I choose progress over perfection. Today, I stop waiting. Take a deep breath. Believe in those words. And remember, the life you've been praying for is often waiting on the courage to take your next step. Thank you for spending this time with me, and I'm so grateful you're part of the Luxe Lounge family. Next week, we're having another real conversation, and I promise you don't want to miss it. Our next episode is called Protect Your Peace Without Feeling Guilty. Come on, y'all. I know y'all need to hear this one. We'll talk about boundaries, people pleasing, protecting your energy, and why saying no doesn't make you a bad person. So until then, take care of yourself, give yourself grace, celebrate your progress, and remember, your story isn't over. Keep growing, keep healing, keep becoming. And I'll meet you right here next week in the Luxe Lounge Podcast, where real conversations create real growth. Bye.